Good morning. As many of you saw, we had to postpone our live halftime report. Thankfully, everyone's doing well, and we should be back to all hands on deck in no time. Please be on the lookout for additional details on when that will be taking place. As we say so often, these videos are exclusively for you. They're not for outside marketing, and we're certainly not trying to become financial influencers or media personalities. We are laser focused on serving you the best we can. To that end, there's a link to a survey in the email this video came in. We want to hear from you, the good, bad, and the ugly, all of it. It should take less than 2 minutes and works great on any device, computer, phone, tablet. And importantly, the survey is anonymous. We will not be able to see who said what about me or Chad or anybody else. We just want genuine feedback from our exclusive audience, that's you. Thank you very much for your help in serving you better. Well, this morning I filled up my tank as I saw $3.99 in the corner of my eye. Never thought I'd be celebrating $4 gas, but here we are. We can see here the USA average gas price is well off its peak from June 14th. As we've been talking about inflation so much lately, let's revisit how inflation is actually calculated. As we say just about every week, headline inflation is calculated on year-over-year basis. So in January 2021, we were at $2.39 a gallon. Let's find January 2022. Let's call it $3.30 a gallon. That's a 38% change year over year. How about this first peak in March of this year? Let's call it $4.30 a gallon. Going back to March 2021, we have, let's call it $2.85 a gallon. That's more than a 50% increase. So those year-over-year percentage increases, 38% in January, over 50% in March, have been contributing to those scary headline inflation figures over the past 6 months. So even coming off the peak, let's say we're at $4.50 now, going back to July 2021 at $3.18 a gallon, that's a 41.5% increase. Gas prices are still contributing to overall inflation. But what's the other side of that story? Going back to this first peak in March of this year at $4.30 a gallon, if gas prices next March in 2023 are below $4.30 a gallon, what will that do to inflation? Inflation will actually go negative, which we call deflation. And in 11 months from now, going into next June, anything below $5 a gallon will result in deflation. In the July CPI inflation report, that scary 9.1% headline number, it's actually June's numbers delivered in that report. So this peak right here was one of the culprits for that very high inflation print. All right, even though prices are still high, this reversal is actually really important. Beyond the obvious, paying less at the pump, easing for the consumer. It's important for our human nature. Around the office, one topic we talk a lot about, especially relevant to this year, is stock market drawdowns, bear markets. Inevitably, when we look back on prior bear markets, whether it's 2008, fourth quarter of 2018, or COVID, it's nearly impossible for us to truly go back and experience what it was like to be in those moments, hour by hour, day after day, weeks and months of carnage and uncertainty. But eventually, the uncertainty resolved, and hopefully we endured to see the other side. And looking back, it's not anywhere near as bad as it was during the actual event. I say all the time, if we could know, all right, this year we're gonna have a 30% drawdown that's gonna last for 8 months, inflation's gonna be super high during that time, then inflation will moderate and the market will come back and reach all-time highs during the next 12 months. Now for compliance purposes, I'm obviously not saying or suggesting this will happen. It's purely a hypothetical example. But if we knew all this beforehand, I bet most of us wouldn't blink when the sell-off happened. So in a sense, it's not the actual sell-off that causes us discomfort. It's the uncertainty of how far it will go and how long it will last. That's why I think signs of peak inflation, like gas prices, are so important for markets. Turning to another current event, have you heard of the Pelosi Portfolio? If not, you'll want to hear this. Due to the Stock Act, members of Congress are required to file what's called a periodic transaction report within 30 days of transactions greater than $1,000. So we can see on a 30-day delay what stocks members of Congress and their spouses are buying and selling. Let's take a quick tour of the Pelosi portfolio over the last year. As a reminder, the Pelosis are worth over $100 million. July 23rd last year, see this column here? SP stands for spouse. So this is all Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi. July 23rd last year, he buys between $500,000 and $1 million worth of NVIDIA stock. He also buys call options, which is a bet on the future price increase of NVIDIA stock. A few months later, in March 2022, lo and behold, the CHIPS Act, bolstering the US semiconductor industry, is passed, but eventually stalls out. What's a good investor to do? Buy more. So on June 17th of this year, just over a month ago, Paul Pelosi bought up to $5 million worth of NVIDIA stock, just in time for the $52 billion CHIPS Act to be passed on July 21st. You can't make it up. When she was asked about it at the press conference, here's what she had to say.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he's received from you?
What are you saying?
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you've received from you?
No, absolutely not. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I'll leave it right there for today. Please keep an eye out for details about our halftime report, and please do help us out with the survey. Thanks very much.